The sun was setting behind the old school building, casting long shadows across the empty playground. Everyone had already gone home, except for one little girl sitting on the swing, her knees pulled to her chest, quietly crying. A young teacher, who was struggling with his own life's burdens, stopped and walked toward her. He didn't know then that this single act of kindness would change not only his fate but also heal a broken family. What began as a moment of compassion would soon become a story that no one at the school would ever forget. The teacher with a big heart. Mr. Aram had been working as a temporary teacher at the local elementary school for almost a year. He wasn't rich. In fact, he barely earned enough to pay his rent and send a little money home to his ailing mother. He wore the same faded shirt almost every day, carried a torn satchel, and rode an old bicycle that squeaked with every turn. But despite everything, he loved teaching. His eyes lit up whenever he saw a child understand a lesson, and he often stayed late after class helping students who struggled. One chilly afternoon, as he was locking the classroom door, he heard soft sobs coming from the playground. Curious, he walked closer and saw a little girl sitting on the swing, her eyes red from crying. "Hey," he said gently, kneeling beside her. "Why are you still here? Everyone's gone home." The girl sniffled, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. I don't want to go home. Mama's not there anymore." Those words hit Aram like a knife. He knew the pain of losing someone. His father had died when he was only 10. He recognized that empty, helpless look in her eyes. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Isa," she whispered. "Okay, Isa," he said kindly. "You don't have to be alone. But it's getting late. Why don't we sit together for a while and talk?" They sat on the swing as the wind gently brushed against their faces. Slowly, Isa began to open up. She told him how her mother had passed away a year ago and how her father, who was always busy with work, hardly talked to her anymore. She felt invisible, unloved, forgotten. Aram listened without interrupting, his heart heavy with empathy. He knew that sometimes listening was more powerful than fixing. When she was done, he smiled softly. "Isa, I may not be able to bring your mom back," he said, "but I can promise you something. As long as I'm your teacher, you'll never have to feel alone." Isa blinked through her tears, a small, fragile smile forming on her face for the first time that day. That night, as Aram rode home on his rusty bicycle under the cold sky, he thought of Isa. He didn't know who her father was. He didn't know that the man behind that little girl was someone powerful. He only knew one thing: she deserved kindness. And he was going to give it. Meanwhile, in a tall glass building across town, Mr. Zion, Isa's father and a wealthy CEO, sat in his office staring at a photograph of his late wife. His success meant nothing now. His house was silent, his heart even more so. He had everything, except the one thing that mattered: connection with his daughter. He had no idea that the man who had comforted his child today would soon change both their lives forever. A kindness that changed everything. The next day, when Isa entered class, something was different. She didn't keep her head down. She didn't sit in the corner alone. Instead, she smiled shyly at Aram as he greeted her at the door. Over the next few weeks, Isa began staying after school to draw, read, and talk with her teacher. She laughed again. She shared stories about her mom. She learned to trust. One afternoon, as Aram was helping her paint a picture, a tall man in an expensive suit appeared at the classroom door. His presence immediately drew everyone's attention. It was Mr. Zion. "Papa," Isa whispered, surprised. Zion watched the way his daughter laughed freely with her teacher, something he hadn't seen since his wife's passing. His chest tightened. He had spent months trying to bury his grief in work, not realizing that his daughter had been breaking inside. Aram stood up nervously, thinking he might get in trouble. But instead, Zion extended his hand. "Mr. Aram," he said, his voice deep but warm. "I'm Isa's father. I've heard a lot about you these days. I wanted to meet the man who brought my daughter's smile back." Aram blinked, caught off guard. I just listened to her. She's a wonderful child." Zion's eyes softened. "Sometimes, listening is more powerful than anything else," he said quietly. That evening, Zion invited Aram for dinner at their mansion. At first, Aram hesitated. His clothes were old, his bicycle was parked outside their golden gate, but Isa held his hand tightly, insisting he come. Inside the grand house, Zion watched how Aram talked with Isa, how gently he encouraged her to speak her mind. And for the first time in years, Zion felt his home filling with warmth again. In the weeks that followed, Zion started leaving work earlier. He joined their painting sessions. He listened when Isa talked. He learned to be a father again. And one day, in a quiet corner of the school garden, Zion said to Aram, "You gave me back my daughter.
You reminded me of something I had forgotten. How to love."
"Thank you." Aram smiled humbly. "You don't have to thank me. She just needed someone to care."
Tears glistened in Zion's eyes.
"Then let me care for you too. I want to support your dreams. No good man should struggle alone." Aram was speechless. A poor teacher who had once thought his life meant nothing more than survival had unknowingly healed a broken family, and in return, his kindness was changing his own destiny. Isa, standing between them, held their hands together with a bright smile. Her heart, once shattered, now felt whole again.
Erba ending message.
Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can mend the biggest wounds. Aram didn't have wealth, power, or status. All he had was a kind heart, and that was enough to bring a lost father back to his daughter, and light up 3 lives forever. Backhand index pointing right. Never underestimate the power of being there for someone. A single moment of compassion can change an entire lifetime.